Today we're going to go a bit overboard. Today we're going to talk about my number one guitar. It's been my number one for 5 years since I got it, and I still can't believe I had it. We're going to talk about my Gibson Les Paul. It's a 1959 reissue in bourbon burst finish from 2013, and I love it to bits. And by the way, for the sound demo, it's going to be every song you hear in this video. Every piece of music is recorded on this guitar, apart from the accompanying bass guitar. So sit tight and let's have a go at this Les Paul 59, shall we? Les Paul's been a favourite of mine since I found out there was more to guitar than Strats. I love the thicker sound, I love the way they looked, I loved everything about them. I was completely obsessed. The colours, everything. I would draw them in my sketchbooks, I would draw them in my schoolwork. I was just so on board with the Les Paul legacy. From all the artists who used them that I grew up listening to all the albums that I now have on vinyl, finding out what kind of guitars they used, it still drives me today. I really, really love these Les Pauls. Jimmy Page, Billy Gibbons, Mark Knopfler, Slash, there's just so many players who use these guitars, and it's fueled me as a player. I really do love these Les Pauls. So when I got this guitar, I was over the moon. I'm originally from Margate. I moved from the southeast of England in 2015 to Weston-super-Mare in the southwest. In February of 2015, we were enjoying the surroundings and just coming to grips with our new home, so we didn't really venture too far out. We went occasionally to the city and we found PMT. That was awesome. In March 2016, a family day trip would change everything forever. My dad took us all to see Bristol, to waste the day by having some drinks, having some food, seeing the sights, and while we were there, I would run into PMT. I love PMT because of all the guitars they had hanging up. That's something I wasn't used to being from Margate. They had Gibson, Fender, PRS, Jackson. There is just so many guitars, it was my heaven. The first time I walked in and saw all those guitars waiting for me, knowing that they were just a train away, it made me so happy. I just needed to go into PMT and get some acoustic strings. I went into PMT with my family, I grabbed the strings, and of course I couldn't pass up the opportunity to play some guitars while we were there. So while my brother and my dad were out trying out all the synths and all those keyboards, I asked the gentleman if I could try out a new neck join that Gibson were doing. This is 2016, just after all those weird 2015 guitars with the modern performance things on everything. But he gave me a CM model with that set neck carve, and I asked to try it, because also I want to play the Gibson, please and thank you. And he handed it down to me, and it had a satin finish, one humbucker, it was really thin, and it wasn't really an accurate representation of a Les Paul. I was still glad it was a Gibson, so I was playing it and playing it and playing it. The neck carve wasn't for me. Gibson was trying something out, and that's fine, but it wasn't really something I was into. The guys see me play now, and I asked the gentleman, I was being so cheeky, I can't believe I got away with this. I see the 59 up there, I says to him, and this is probably going to be the only time I'm ever going to get a chance to play one, but would you mind if I had a go, please? And he's seen that I can play, and that I respect the guitar, so I'm not going to be silly with it. And he says this to me, and he says, they're on sale. They're on sale this weekend. And I'm just like, okay, great. What can I do? 17-year-old comes into a music shop, he's going to buy a custom shop Les Paul. I don't think so. But he hands it down to me. It was a tobacco sunburst finish, bourbon burst, dark burst, whatever you want to call it. And I was just so happy to be close to it, like the smell of it, the feel, the sound, all of it. I was plugged into this Fender Blues Deluxe, which is a 40-watt amp, so it takes a lot to drive it. And I had a bit of crunch on, but I had to keep the volume down, so I wasn't playing with the gain that I'm used to at the time. But that did mean I heard all of the intricacies that go into this guitar. The resonance that it had just going against my body, the sound coming out of the amp, it was so clear. It really enlightened me on how guitars should work. The neck profile was absolutely lovely for me. It had this kind of fake dust thing on it, because it was like the aged finish. It wasn't checked or anything or like properly dinged up, but it was just so beautifully done. And I remember looking down at the knobs, the humbucker rings, the pickups, everything, the neck, and seeing those tortoiseshell inlays. It was so amazing. Fake tortoiseshell, it's not real tortoiseshell, just so you know. Yeah, I felt so lucky to have my hands on this guitar. I took it all in because I thought there's probably going to be any chance I'm going to get to play one. It was amazing. Now for the deal. My mum watched me play this guitar, and she knew that I was in love with it. So she decided to try and get a way to get my dad to buy me this guitar. She goes up to him and says, what else are we going to get him for his 18th birthday? Thanks, Mum. My dad and my mum are trying to figure out the finances to get the guitar, all without me knowing. I'm just like sitting down playing this amp, and I'm just taking it all in. Again, I don't know if I'm going to get to do this again, so I'm just in a world of my own here. Eventually, I see everyone around me, and they're talking like in a huddle about how they would do it. And my brother comes up to me and he says, hey, why don't you try that one? And I say, why? Because it's about 200 quid cheaper. And then I started getting wise. I was like, oh, what? Like, are we going to start getting this guitar? This is crazy. It was a 1958 Cherry Sunburst Les Paul. And playing the 59, I was like, okay, yeah, we'll change over. And I played the 58, and it was the kind of colour I was after, like when I was dreaming up my dream Les Paul. But even though it felt basically identical, it wasn't resonating as much. Me and the 59 had bonded pretty well, so playing the 58, it just wasn't the same, and everyone could see that. And it's funny, actually, I had the 59 on a stand in front of me next to the amp, and I felt like it was just looking at me. It's like, yeah, I mean, sure, play the 58, but you know where this is going. And, you know, from that moment, I was like, this guitar it's going to be amazing. I love this guitar so much. But I did feel a bit guilty. I was like, Dad, we don't need to get one of these. We could just get like a standard, which would still be amazing for me to get for a birthday present. Like, I love Les Pauls. And if it had the binding and the sunburst finish, that's fantastic. I'd love that. But no, I remember what he said to me, and it just shows how great my parents are. He says, if you're gonna get one, make sure you get the right one. And that was just amazing. You know? So I played the 58 some more, and my dad says, you know, try them both out and we can see where it goes. So I said, no, it's gotta be a 59. The 59 just felt so right. Coming out of the amp and feeling it on my shins, and my jeans were like shaking a little bit from the amp, feeling it in my shoes, rumble the floor. It was so perfect, and the look, the shape, the weight, everything was a dream. It really was a dream. From that point, we knew it was 59. My dad, being the best dad in the world that he is, says to the salesman, if we're going to take the guitar, we're taking the amp too, which is just absolutely crazy. I use that amp all the time. The Fender Blues Deluxe 40-watt tweed. I used it at the jam night. I've used it on countless gigs, weddings, all of that. The two are a pair, and they're absolutely perfect. My dad loved the sound that came out of that amp as much as I did. So thank you very much to my parents. Here's what the two sound like together. Obviously, I couldn't carry around a Fender Blues with me around the city. What I didn't know was that I was actually playing that guitar for 2 hours in that shop. It only felt like 20 minutes to me, but that was a 2-hour deal of me playing that guitar and walking out with a 59 Les Paul reissue. But as we were wanting to do, we saw the rest of the city. We went to the bar next door, the Bay Horse, beautiful bar, and I had the 59 in the case with me, and I couldn't believe I was holding it. My parents knew that obviously they're not going to have that guitar delivered I wanted it on my person the entire time. I was guarding it massively, had the lifting case with the pink interior. Beautiful, right? And we're in the bar, and I just have to see it one more time. I had to verify that this was actually happening. So what I did was I told my mum an excuse to see the guitar. I was like, Mum, I just need to lock it up. Okay, I just need to lock it up to make sure it's safe. So I get it on the table, open it up from all the cases, and it just looks so good. The Bay Horse has like this really nice Tudor interior at the time. Big wooden tables. It looked so good in there. I snapped a picture. I don't have access to that picture anymore apart from the Instagram photo, but here's that picture there. Beautiful, right? When I got home, I took pictures of the guitar on my bed and uploaded it to Snapchat, and all of my music guitar friends are just as confused as I am about how I actually got this guitar. They couldn't believe it. And I was really happy to say, no, I've got it, it's great. And I remember taking all the time in the world to stare at the headstock and just see the font, because it's different to the standard ones. The model is slimmer. And I remember having a wallpaper of an actual 59 Les Paul on my desktop. That was my wallpaper for ages. So to actually have as close to the real thing in my room, in my custody, my guitar now, that was an absolute game changer. I felt so lucky and fortunate to have this guitar, but I also felt a bit guilty. I felt that I hadn't earned it yet and that I had to live up to this reputation. I felt like I might be seen as a kid who just got it and is spoiled, doesn't even know what he's got. It really helped me step up my game. I played the guitar for hours and hours, and I took in everything. Playing this guitar, along with some of my favorite tunes from my favorite albums, I felt so much more connected to the music. A lot of my favorite albums and players use these types of guitars, either originals or reissues, but they use Gibson Les Pauls, and now I have one of the best ones you can buy. So I just felt so much more connected to the music that I was listening to. I was excited to take it into college, but I was conscious of any judgments I might indirectly receive. Everybody thought of me as this acoustic singer-songwriter, so to pop up with one of the best Les Pauls you can get, people might judge me for it and think that I was spoilt. I didn't want to think that, but I also wanted to show it off to my friends. I mean, whenever anyone had a chance to play one of these previously, you'd play it, take in everything, and then the next day you'd pop up to all your mates and say, it was great, it felt like this, it smelled like this, and it was so great. And everyone's really happy. But to bring one in and give people to try out and also like play with bands and stuff, it was really, really fun. I wasn't in a band yet, so that's another point of having this guitar. Why would you have this guitar without being in a band? I wanted to be in a band, but all the bassists and drummers and stuff like that were taken. So this guitar really helped me with that. To satisfy the itch of playing in a band, I would often attend the jam night at the Britbug. While being there, I would play ZZ Top, I'd play Led Zeppelin, I'd play loads of like Les Paul orientated stuff on a Telecaster. But now I've got the real thing, so I go up there and I'm so happy. I'm showing off a bit, overplaying, absolutely. But I was young and I was excited. It was great to be able to stretch those fingers and play these songs. And it caught the attention of Miss Jo Worley. And Jo Worley used to own the Newmarket in Weston-super-Mare. And I would play there a lot with the college acoustically. And she didn't know that I had this side of me. So she uploaded a picture on Facebook. She says, "Where was that?" And she wanted me to play at her bar, the Newmarket. So I was really thrilled to have a gig, but I needed a band. So I get a band together, and that was HOASTER. It was a really, really fun night. My godfather was there. We had so much fun with the Fender Blues, with the 59 Les Paul. Zach Bartlett and Ryan Thrupp were my band for that time. Absolutely amazing. Really, really enjoyed it. From that point, the band did loads more college gigs. We played the Bear, we played festivals and all that. It was really, really fun. I learned a lot of my chops with this guitar. It really pushed me to progress and to be more confident, to be the stage person I've always wanted to be. I love doing acoustic stuff, but being behind a band and working with other musicians, it just feels so much better to me. So that was great. Since then, this guitar has been part of my band now, which Hovis moved into HOASTER because we didn't own the Hovis rights, obviously, they're a bread company. Also Jarvis Lane. I use it with Jarvis Lane now. I'm I'm one of the lead guitarists and backing singers, and this is my number one for that, Trini Lopez on the number 2. I've done weddings, I've done a couple corporate gigs. It's one of those guitars that I'm gonna have for the rest of my life, and I'm gonna keep using it. In the 5 years I've had it, it's gotten pretty dinged up. So, here's some of that. First thing I got on it was right by the tuner. As I was cutting the strings, the clippers dinged into the headstock. I didn't know how soft nitro was, so that was a quick learning curve. Also, all the scratches on the headstock from strings going through, I had no idea that that was something you had to consider. Every guitar I've had previously has been a poly finish, so strings can scratch away and you might find a slight impression, but that took me a long time to find out. So the headstock is pretty scratched up. There's also the odd scuffs and dings around the headstock. That's to be expected. And there's like scratches all over the body, dings as well, pick scratches. The binding's gone completely red on one side. They do have like a bleed when you buy these guitars, but because of my sweat and how much I've played it, it's actually gone like basically all over the binding. On the body, you can see a little bit of how they intended it to be, but that's also got some interesting colors coming out now the nitro is aging. It's so great, and it's getting chips and dings on it. I'm not happy about it, but it does look cool because you've got like the cream with the blank white come through. Really, really cool. And the back has a lot of buckle rash on it. I'm not doing a Joe Bonamassa and wearing the biggest belt I can, but it does naturally happen. I don't want to baby this guitar too much. I want to play it the way it should be played, with all of my energy. But I do look after this guitar as much as I can. With all the gigs I've done to it, it's going to get a little bit beat up. The pickup is also going green because of my sweat, and that's something that you can't fake. That's amazing. And the tailpiece, now let me remind you again, there's like an aged finish on all of the hardware and on the finish itself. But because I've played it so much, the player side of the tailpiece is buffed out, so now that's all shiny, which is interesting. The oxidization on the tailpiece studs and on the bracket and the thumb bleeders, they rusted really, really quickly. I'm not sure what that was. If it's happened to anyone else, let me know, because that's kind of cool. The only thing I've changed on this guitar is the jack plate. The jack plate was a really, really thin, historically accurate piece of plastic. They are known to break easily, and I didn't want to replace it with another historic spec plastic because you're overpaying for them, and they're just going to break again. So instead, I went for a piece of nickel and just put it on there. The reason I did that is because Jimmy Page has that on his, and when that ages, it's going to look super cool. It looks cool now, but that's the only thing that I've changed. If anything does need to be replaced on the guitar, it's going to be replaced with what it should have been when I got it. I love this guitar. I don't want to change a thing about it. Once the frets are going to go, they're going to go back to the size they originally were when I got it. The same with the humbucker rings. Should they break, they're going to be replaced with historic replicas. Everything in this guitar I love so much, I'm not going to change a thing. Nylon nut. I'm going to fork out for the nylon nut, okay? I love this guitar to bits. I don't want anything different about it. Here are the telltale signs which make me know this guitar is mine. I like how they're racked. The mineral streak on the player's side separates in two parts and goes all the way up the body, starting from the bottom, right next to the bridge, across the pickups, and then up by the toggle switch. I love that so very much. When I found out that continued all the way through, I just found it so cool. There's more mineral streaks on the other side by the controls, and it's like two little Wolverine hits all the way down. Very much reminds me of Bernie Marsden's The Beast, where his are all over his controls. That's also really, really cool. And then there's wiggly lines in the maple as well, not just this way, but that way, which is awesome. And then on the back, you've got the all-seeing eye of mahogany. Reminds me of the Lord of the Rings. I love that so very much. It's crazy, crazy cool. And then there's some sort of glue residue on the 19th fret. And if you remember from the Trini Lopez video, the Trini Lopez has glue residue on the 18th fret, which is crazy, crazy cool. It's on the low E side and it's right next to the string. And I found that like just so fun to me. That was really, really incredible. It's like they're meant to be together, which is convenient because I use them all the time. They're my favorite guitars. So that's the story of my 1959 Les Paul reissue from 2013. I want to thank my parents so very much for getting me this guitar. I don't take it for granted. I really, really appreciate everything they do for me. This guitar especially. It's the best. If you like what you saw here today, this was What's That Then? Or
What's That Then?
Where we talk about what you've done to the guitar, how you got it, why you like it. It's about the story of the instrument. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you to everyone else who's been watching and leaving comments. That's great. I really appreciate that we've got a conversation going here. I love talking about guitars, and I like that everyone's pitching in their stories. That's great. I like that we're building up a little community. So consider subscribing, and I'll see you next time. Bye.